Mary, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I've been very eager to hear from you what you think your uncle is going through. And let's go to that by beginning with Rachel's question, which is handwritten here. I'd do a close-up with the camera, but man, you'd have trouble with this penmanship. She did have to translate it for me. She wrote, "How afraid of jail?" That's her question. How afraid of jail is your uncle?
Lawrence, it's a great question. The problem is, as is often the case with Donald, is the extent to which he is able to grapple with those kinds of questions. I don't think that he allows himself to believe that's a possibility. It is literally beyond him to imagine a situation in which he would be held accountable to such a degree that he would lose his freedom. To the extent that he hasn't already lost his freedom, but that's self-imposed. So if he could comprehend that that was a viable possibility, he would be terrified in a way that he hasn't been. But as you and I have often discussed, Donald lives his life in fear. He just does everything in his power to cover the fear over with anger most often. And sometimes that blend of arrogance and self-aggrandizement that we often see him traffic in.
Yeah, I've noticed the shift in his public comments since he was indicted. He now just doesn't go near talking about the evidence like he used to, saying, "Oh yeah, I brought them there, and they're mine." All these things that he said publicly about the documents, he stopped saying anything about the documents. And so when I look for signs of what he's feeling, that looks to me like the current version of his fear. The current version of his fear is, I better not say anything about those documents.
Yeah, he's incredibly good at adapting to the current situation. If something isn't working, he stops doing it. You know, he will push the envelope until it won't go any further, and then he'll change tactics. Unfortunately for us, for most of his life, just throwing a temper tantrum and digging his heels in and refusing to acknowledge reality has worked for him because there has always been somebody there or some entity there to support him. He may have reached the end of that particular road. And I believe it was Neil Katyal who said earlier that down the road, this may become something that Donald thinks is going to work for him again. Because, again, it's worked for decades now. So I don't think we can discount the possibility that he'll pivot to earlier strategies. But right now, you're right. I think it's almost as if talking about the evidence is acknowledging the fact that the evidence, which, by the way, is mostly his words and his actions that have been recorded and reported by other people, are what got him in trouble.
Let's look at something that he did say this weekend, this messianic statement. And let's see if the control room can give Donald Trump just a fraction of this screen. He doesn't deserve all of it for this thing he said about why he is doing this and who he's doing this for.
In the end, they're not coming after me. They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. Here I am. I'm standing in their way, and I always will
be. He has fooled enough people or appealed to enough people for them to believe that that's true, even though there's no evidence that he would put a hair out of place in order to save anybody from any kind of harm. What he's saying to them is that they're coming after him, so they need to put their bodies in the way of that.